Lots of news in the NHL today. Today we're going to talk. We have a lot to cover in today's NHL news, including a little bit more on the firing of DJ Smith as head coach of the Ottawa Senators. We also have some trade rumors involving the Pittsburgh Penguins, Edmonton Oilers, and the Colorado Avalanche. Lots of other updates from around the NHL, including lots of injury update and 3 players on waivers. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot to cover here today. Lots of news, including the big story of the day. DJ Smith has been fired as head coach of the Ottawa Senators. Now, there is a full direct video on the channel covering this topic specifically from earlier in the day. In case you missed it, I'll link it up in the YouTube cards. I just want to touch on it quickly here, but for more in-depth analysis, you can check out my other video. But essentially, DJ is gone. Steve Staios finally pulled the trigger here, indicating in the press conference that he just had a short time ago that essentially, after a not so great start, he had some optimism after making some changes. They played better for a while, but in these last 3 or 4 games, they kind of reverted back to a lot of the issues they were having earlier in the season, and he was starting to be concerned again and felt it was just time for a change. Constantly evaluating is the term he continues to use here. Of course, DJ was also fired with his assistant coach, Davis Payne. Jacques Martin, a longtime veteran, 71 years old, all kinds of experience. In my opinion, the greatest coach the Sens ever had, will come in as the interim head coach, along with Daniel Alfredsson taking over as an assistant coach. So Alfredsson will assume the role that Davis Payne had, work with the forwards and run the power play. And of course, Martin is known for having the fine little details, good defensive structure, hard work, holding players accountable. Which is an issue under DJ Smith, I think it's fair to say. No matter how many times he's seen the players mess up, make mental errors, there was just no repercussions. Like, nobody was ever healthy scratched. Nobody was ever reduced in ice time. And I think the last number of weeks or this entire season, DJ knew that he was up against it and likely wouldn't be there long if things didn't go well. And I think he had to continue relying on his top guys. I think he was afraid to hold them accountable, to be completely honest. Figures if he sits them down for any length of time, that's just going to make things worse. And you know what? Maybe it would temporarily, but long term, I think it'd be better for the player to learn and mature. There's still a very young group with tons of skill. I think for the most part, I think what they thought they had in the roster, I think is largely there. I do think throughout the first 25, 26 games of the season, there is, I guess, a few more holes in the roster than some people may not have thought. Or some different players that might need to be replaced, but there's a lot there to like and there's lots to work with. They just need to have some maturity and some more details and structure to their game. It's just that simple. That's something that was lacking big time, and we'll see if Martin and Alfredsson can come in and help get this thing turned around. The funny thing about this is DJ Smith gets fired after getting their butts whooped by the Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights 5-2 the other night. Actually, it was 6-3, sorry. It was 5-2 after the second period. Vegas added another one, make it 6-2, and then Brady Tkachuk scored 2 minutes to go or something to make it 6-3. But at the end of the day, that Vegas, throttling is what gets DJ fired. And, the weird part is Vegas was also responsible for getting GM Pierre Dorion fired as well, because they're the ones who complained about the trade involving Evgeny Dadonov, which, them continuing to put up a stink about it is what caused the league to take action, caused the punishment to the Sens, and cost Pierre Dorion his job. So the Golden Knights ultimately responsible for getting both of these guys out of the Senators organization. So for those who were thinking it was greatly time for a change and a fresh start all around in Ottawa, Vegas, those fans will thank you very much and move on. But at the same time, the other thing I found weird today was that DJ Smith was running practice. He actually ran practice and talked to the media and then was fired on a day off. A day off from playing. Weird, or what? That's very weird that they let DJ run practice today. And the thing that he made comments coming off the ice saying, yeah, the things haven't been going well. We haven't been getting the results. So today I took a little bit of a different approach and we had a fun practice to try to loosen things up. Fun practice? You're on a 4-game losing streak. You've lost, 7 of 10 or whatever it is now. You're slipping further and further out of the playoffs with a high expectation this year. It is not time for fun. It is time for hard work and tough decisions. And if that's the approach you're taking, then you need to go. I like DJ Smith a lot as a person. He really seems like a really good dude, really fun to be around, but that's not what they need. They don't need the fun uncle that's there to do those types of things. They need a coach that's able to help them mature and to learn the fine details and to learn how to win. It's not easy to win, clearly, at the NHL level. It takes more than just skill, and they need to learn that. And Jacques Martin, Daniel Alfredson, I think, will be a great pair to help them make that move and hopefully take steps forward. So we'll see how things work out. They'll have their hands full with the Arizona Coyotes tomorrow night at Mullet Arena. At the very least, I expect this team to come out super hard and give a way better effort. We'll see if they can get a win or not. If they get that new coach bump or what have you. They don't have an easy schedule for the next little bit. So I don't expect them to go on a bit of a heater like we've seen with the Oilers. But even if they can start winning more often, it might take a few games to get the kinks worked out, to get some new things in order and how they want them to play. But we'll see. There's lots of work to be done in Ottawa, and time is running out if they have any chance to be a playoff team. It's probably, the odds are greatly against them with this, right? They need another Hamburglar type run if that's what it's going to take. So we'll see. Maybe they call up Matt Sogard and he becomes Hamburglar 2.0. I don't know. But it's going to take something like that to get into the playoffs. And it could be a lost season. Might be too little, too late. We'll see. On the waiver wire today, we got 3 players on waivers today. Jacob Bryson in Buffalo, Lucas Johansson in Washington, and Ryan Shea in Pittsburgh. All players on waivers can be picked up until 2 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. In all 3 cases, they're all players that really weren't playing a whole lot. In the case of Lucas Johansson in Washington, I do wonder if they're getting close to signing Ethan Bear, because that very well could be a move to make some room on the roster. And they're obviously, adjust what their salary cap commitment is. So that very well could be getting close. We know he's likely signing there. We don't know exactly when. It doesn't make sense for Bear to sign until he's ready to play. So we'll see what that means. In Detroit, Captain Dylan Larkin's finally ready to return. He is going to play tonight. I did see a crazy rumor that came from Reddit or something like that. I decided not to make a video and talk about it because I didn't think there was anything to it. But there was a Reddit user who apparently did have some, accuracy success, whatever you want to call it, and with inside information with the Red Wings in the past. But this time was completely wrong. There was spreading stuff saying that Larkin was going to be out for quite a long time, likely wasn't going to play until at least February, and that his career might be over like this. The injury with the neck, again, could be like a career ender. And the next day or two, boom, he's in the lineup. So I don't know really what to make of that. Obviously, if you see anything about that, clearly untrue. Like I said, I didn't bother going there. I didn't think it was really noteworthy enough to talk about. But according to head coach Derek Lalonde, he's back tonight. And because of that, Austin Czarnik's been returned to the American Hockey League. Coyotes forward Travis Boyd is likely done for the season. Apparently, he's dealing with a torn pectoral muscle. So that's bad news for him and the Coyotes. Sabres youngster Jack Quinn is getting close to returning and could play this week as early as tomorrow. Of course, he's been recovering from an ACL he's been recovering from a torn Achilles injury that he suffered in the offseason. So we'll see how things go for Quinn, but he is getting close, and which is promising news. The Boston Bruins today assigned youngster Matt Poitras to Team Canada, the World Juniors. When I was talking before about Team Canada announcing their roster for the 2024 World Junior Championship, I mentioned that they left one roster spot open, and they were hoping to get somebody from the NHL. I had mentioned I thought Bruins centerman Matt Poitras would probably be the most likely guy to go. I kind of honestly think Columbus should have made Fantilli available too, considering what they've done and how they've handled their players this year. But I know he's definitely good enough to stay in the NHL. There's no doubt about that. But, I just thought, considering they're going nowheres and how they've handled things, but not so much. But Matt Poitras will be a big help to Team Canada. He appears to be quite a gamer, especially at that level, and got some good experience that he can use to help him. He will return to the Bruins upon completion of the tournament, not go back to junior, at least not as of right now. The Carolina Hurricanes have brought in another goaltender. Of course, we've seen this with Jaro Halak. He was signed to a PTO, but not signed to a contract. They've done the same thing now with veteran Aaron Dell. So there was video footage that was surfaced of Dell working out in San Jose with Joe Thornton and Logan Couture, them taking shots on him, getting him ready. So he'll go to Carolina on a PTO, and we'll see where that goes. Stars starting netminder Jake Ottinger is classified as week to week. Of course, he got hurt playing the Ottawa Senators a few days ago, And then the other Vegas goalies are hurt again. I'm not sure what it is about playing the Ottawa Senators and having your goalie get hurt, but it happened in back-to-back games between Dallas and Vegas. Adin Hill played about 2 minutes, and I believe he was returning from injury. The first goal against from Josh Norris was a power play goal. It went right through the legs. He didn't make an attempt to go down. He went off. Apparently, he's not ready to play, even though they thought he was. Logan Thompson came in, played well, but in the third period, he had an went down awkwardly to make a save, and you can see he looked like he hurt his knee. He did play the rest of the game, but there was some concern about that too. So Vegas could, for their sake, they better hope they don't have both their goalies hurt again. That could be a problem. But thankfully, they've sitting well in the standings in case they do have any setbacks. They can certainly withstand that. Of course, Flyers goalie Ivan Fedotov, who's been playing over in Russia, was appealing his double IHF suspension, and that suspension has been upheld. And the IIHF has confirmed that he indeed had a valid contract with the Philadelphia Flyers and should have been playing there, not in the KHL. So his suspension to play internationally, which runs for the entire season, is upheld and will not be changed. I'll be curious to see if he ever makes a jump back to the NHL. The San Jose Sharks did something unexpected in their last game, making Anthony Duclair a healthy scratch. Obviously, he hadn't played that poorly from an offensive standpoint, putting up 6 points in his last 7 games. But according to head coach David Quinn, it wasn't so much about that, more about his defensive play and play away from the puck. So I know he's a veteran guy who's attracting some attention for trade. So we will see where things go in that sense. But a little bit of a surprise healthy scratch there that I don't know if that'll lead to anything further with relationship impact or whatnot. We'll see where that goes. Some trade talk around the NHL. Pittsburgh, we know, is a bit of a mess right now. There's an article in Pittsburgh Hockey Now from Dan Krajinski talking about, would they consider at this point breaking up their big three? Of course, they made every effort to keep Crosby, Malkin, Letang together, and they have done that by signing Malkin and Letang to new contracts in the past year. But they're not getting, at least as a team, the job done. They brought in Erik Karlsson and Riley Smith and re-signed Tristan Jarry, and the team's a bit of a mess. Right now, missing the playoffs would be considered an absolute failure on this part, and this big three group wants to try to win before it's all done. They want to try to win another Stanley Cup. They want to continue to play here for this team in a window that's open, not that's going to be slammed shut in their face by missing the playoffs for a second consecutive year. So it's surprising. Now, the article goes on to state that as much as it might be, in some ways, make sense to consider making those moves, it's unlikely, but the more likely scenario, and of course this is far from a guarantee, but you would think that they would consider moving Erik Karlsson before any of those three. Could they move number 65 yet again? His jump to Pittsburgh from San Jose has resulted in a drop in production. It's resulted in not getting to be where he wants to be when it comes to having a chance to win. And you have to think that there's possibilities that do exist where maybe they do consider moving him. They may have to retain a little bit more salary to knock that number down further than what San Jose did. They didn't retain a whole lot of it. So at the end of the day here, this is going to get complicated and tricky, but you have to wonder if it's something that they're going to start to look at. Is Kyle Dubas going to have buyer's remorse here on Erik Karlsson and realize that, maybe this, as much as he's a great player, not really what they needed and doesn't really fit well. So I don't know that we're going to see any kind of a deal by the trade deadline. I guess anything's possible, but I think that's probably more of a trade to see in the offseason. But I do wonder if his time in Pittsburgh will end up being limited. We'll have to wait and see where that goes. There's also an Athletic article I was taking a look at, written by Alan Mitchell, talking about the Edmonton Oilers and moves they are expected to make ahead of the trade deadline. Of course, after getting the ship righted with the coaching change, it went on a long winning streak. They've now since lost a couple in a row, unfortunately. But, the Oilers are still in a much better spot. And at this point, many suspect will indeed make the playoffs, even though they had that incredibly rocky start to their campaign. However, this article suggests that there could be multiple moves they make, including a potential big trade ahead of the deadline, and could even try to address their goaltending. But the article goes on to say that they feel like they might be able to address the goaltending without moving Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell, at this point, I know was expected to get a recall, another opportunity. I don't think that's going to come anytime soon, if at all. I know at one point that was the plan. I think they sent him down there with every intention of that being the case. But at the end of the day, he had a rough start to his AHL tenure. Then he turned it around. And then the last 3 or 4 games has been really bad again. He's also let in some goals that he shouldn't be. I know I listened to comments from the AHL head coach in the Oilers organization, and he was pretty blunt, pretty straightforward, talking about how Campbell needs to make the saves that he's expected to make. And even though he had a better stretch, he's had a poor stretch, and it's not really where his game needs to be right now. So I don't see them calling him up anytime soon. Until they figure something out, they're going to continue to run with Skinner and Pickard for at least a little bit longer, but certainly a goaltender would likely be in their radar going into the deadline. There's no doubt. Now, the article goes on to suggest maybe a trade with provincial rival Calgary Flames and Dan Vladar, along with a guy like Chris Tanev, would be wise for the Edmonton Oilers. And I do agree those would be great pickups for any playoff team, especially the Oilers, who need some help, I think, personally, on the blue line as well as between the pipes. Up front, they have lots of firepower. Could they maybe add some depth if they're able to? Sure, it's a possibility, but it's by far not the most pressing need with that team. Is Vladar the answer, though? Does he have any kind of proven playoff success? No. It's difficult to say. Could he be an option that doesn't cost an incredibly bad price? Yes, it's possible, but it's hard to say for sure that would be a slam dunk deal. Look at the last time we've seen a trade between Calgary and Edmonton. James Neal, Milan Lucic. It worked out a little bit better for one side than the other, but it wasn't really a slam dunk for either team. I mean, Lucic found a way to be a fourth-line player for the Flames and contribute in other ways, but really, I don't think either player really ever found the game that they were hoping to find with their new clubs. It just didn't work out. I mean, it kind of worked out a little bit, but not really. That trade was a lose-lose, I think, for the most part for both teams. But I mean, Neal didn't stay in Edmonton all that long. So I guess from a standpoint of Lucic actually writing up the contract, and even though it wasn't really an offensive contribution, he did play a fourth-line role, did play a bit of an enforcer role. So at least he was able to contribute some, but by no means was it a slam dunk between the two teams. We'll see what they do if they'll hook up on another deal, but Vladar and Tanev do make sense to be targets for the Oilers. I don't know if they can do that cap-wise. They're going to almost have to move some money out. And if Campbell's not going, then it's going to get complicated on who is or how that's going to work. Also, there's a news from Elliot Friedman that in the latest 32 Thoughts podcast that the Colorado Avalanche are certainly, like I said, a team a lot of teams are looking at. They're one of the top teams in the NHL, just 2 years removed here, or 1 year removed, 2 years ago winning the Stanley Cup. They have a big chunk of the same roster with a few changes. And at this point, they recently traded Tomas Tatar. They're expected to make other additions to this roster ahead of the deadline. And one name that he brings up on the podcast that makes a lot of sense that they are likely targeting, according to other teams, is Elias Lindholm of the Calgary Flames. I mean, he would probably be the perfect number 2 center. I mean, center depth is something that you can never have enough of. And he's certainly strong enough at his position to be a real good number 2 behind Nathan MacKinnon. Obviously, when they won the Stanley Cup, they had Nazem Kadri there. Lindholm he's a different kind of player, but at the same time, he's a player that's very productive, very good defensively, good on faceoffs, and would be a terrific addition. He doesn't make a ton of money either, and really, there's a lot to like about his game and how that would fit with the Avalanche. So to me, that very well makes a ton of sense, and I can see that being a target all the way. Player news and rumors for now, so let me know your thoughts on everything that today discussed down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.